All right, guys. Good to see you again. Episode 3. More. I realize I need to back up, rewind a little bit before I talk about my first two MMA fights, two and only. Uh, but I want to talk a little bit about Filipino martial arts and quick corrections from the last episode. Jacob Lamb corrected me. He was the first student of Team Quest. So shout out to Jacob. And he corrected me. Submissionfighting.com was where I got the fighter's notebook. Submission Underground is Chael's submission fighting event that was on UFC Fight Pass. Hopefully it'll come back. Good matches on there. Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, local guys, Charlie Gilpin and Gustavo Bessa from our gym. We're the tag team champs for several of the Submission Underground events. So it switched to MMA.tv. So the underground and other ground. Spent a long time on there learning and connecting with people over the years. All right. So Kempo, one of my friends, Roger Lanier, he invited me to a garage training, at Filipino Martial Arts. The instructor, Mac McRedmond, he was a CERT team instructor, squashing people in the jail. Half a dozen of the people that trained in his garage were sheriffs, and uh, the first class I went, there's no gis, there's no bowing. Everyone's wearing hoodies, sweats, their shoes, their boots. One of the first exercises, first class, put me in the middle and go. And so one of the guys, his job it was wrapped my legs up, took me down. The instructor, Mac, he grabbed my hair and also pulled me down along with that double leg. And they proceeded to gently, they're going 25%, 10%, gently, basically stomp me, about half a dozen people. And at some point in this, I'm trying to survive and trying to stand up, get up, escape. I feel something strange on my legs, down by my calf. The guy who took me down, he was wearing a mouthpiece, but he's simulating, gently gumming my calves to show me that he could be biting me. So I was like, this is a wake up call. Uh, in Kempo karate, we're not doing takedowns. We're not pulling people's hair, and we're certainly not biting people. um, so again, like I said, UFC. Watching the first UFCs, I was like, "Oh man, that's cool." The first MMA practice, same thing. Filipino martial arts. Wow, this is cool. Because I wanted, again, like realistic self-defense. And back then, when I was young, late 20s, is um wanting to be able to protect myself, wanting that sense of safety, security, um self-defense, was kind of a motivator for me. So Filipino martial arts, if you don't know it, you've probably seen it in Jason Bourne movies and a lot of the Marvel movies now. Um, uh, stick and knife fighting. So Kali, Eskrima, Arnis, Silat. You see a little bit of quite a bit of it in John Wick 3 and 4. The Indonesian martial arts are similar to Filipino martial arts. So stick and knife, and so uh, that training was 3-hour classes, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Now with my work schedule, I wouldn't always do the full 3 hours during the week, maybe 2 hours, but Saturday morning, 3 hours is basically sparring. We put on hockey gear and uh, and did full contact stick fighting with with padded sticks. Um, and so that's where I learned more about the Dog Brothers. My goal back then was to be able to do one of the gatherings, full contact stick fighting. If you haven't seen it, Google it, check it out. So uh, back then, uh, the Dog Brothers were influencing me, and also learning about progressive fighting systems. Paul Vunak's group, and Dan Inostanto Academy. You might be familiar with Eric Paulson and Burton Richardson, and so they are students of Danny Insanto. That guy's a legend. So he was one Bruce Lee's right hand man, and so after Bruce Lee passed away, he kind of kept the lineage, kept Jeet Kune Do going and kept it evolving. He uh, went deeper and deeper into Filipino martial arts and Sila and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. Um, and then some of the early Jeet Kune Do guys like Larry Hartzell were training with Judo Jean LaBelle, and they're doing catch wrestling. And so, like those are all branches of martial arts. Uh, but Bruce Lee was such an influence. So back then, progressive fighting systems, they were trying to make things more alive. Paul Vunak, it might be on YouTube, like headbutts, knees, and elbows. He had like a video about doing the defang the snake, the destructions. So like against straight punches, jabs, and crosses, like parrying it into the vertical elbow or the horizontal elbow to so the idea is if you empty hand, no gloves, no hand wraps, parrying a jab into somebody's elbow, they can't use that jab anymore. And then they're also doing the parry where they're um uh, hitting the bicep to try to deaden the arm. And the idea is using techniques that you would use with the sword, with the knife, but empty hand. So if I'm defending a one angle, a downward diagonal angle, parrying it and then hitting the wrist, or slicing the wrist on the inside line so you drop your weapon or deaden that weapon. That's kind of the tactics, the strategy, one of the key ones from Filipino martial arts. So that type of stuff, blending Filipino martial arts with Muay Thai, um getting the clinch to headbutt. And Vunak is like getting the clinch to thumb the eyes and knee people in the groin. And so back then, back then it was so much sport versus street debates. Um and like all that karate, traditional karate stuff you learn in the dojo that won't work on the street. People fight dirty. And there was like this phrase of like you learn your art and you add dirt. So you add foul tactics, you add rabbit punches, you add headbutts, you add thumbing the eyes, you add hitting the groin, things like that. My instructor, Filipino martial arts instructor, like when we would grapple, he's talking about he would do this too, sticking the chin in the eye socket and just like pinning and just you know really fighting dirty. And so that was kind of what what I was training for. Like, what are you training for? Like, I was training for street fighting back then. uh but so the Dog Brothers, they're trying to do like uh minimal padding, minimal protection, like maybe baseball gloves, and not huge like plastic shell knee pads, like knee sleeves, neoprene sleeves. Fencing mask, not like football helmet masks. Heavy sticks. I mean, these guys are like fighting with aluminum training knives, not rubber. They're fighting with nunchucks, uh, bull whips, whatever you bring to these gatherings. If you find someone who's like, "Hey, are you willing to go?" They're just testing stuff. I don't know if they have maces. I haven't seen a mace, um, uh, but uh, it they're trying to find out like what techniques will actually work if someone's like is not like being a cooperative training partner, but they're trying to destroy, like take you out, like full on baseball bat swinging their sticks. And not like a light rattan stick, but like a heavy stick, simulating a machete. Or they have long sticks that like simulate swords. So it's pretty brutal. And there's no ref. So you got to tap out before you're unconscious. With some of these fights. Um, but so Dog Brothers connection to jujitsu. Um, it you, you get smashed. You got someone swinging, a 3 foot stick at you. You either got to get inside the power line, you got to clinch, you got to close the distance, or you got to stay out. Um, uh, you know, out from the swings. At some point, you got to fight. At some point, you got to engage and close the distance. And there's going to be grappling. So there's a lot of grappling at these fights. Standing, these guys are doing like stick chokes, using the butt end of the stick to like power and amplify chokes. um in like scarfold side control, they're digging the stick into the neck, and cranking. They're getting mount and using this, and just like bringing down the hammer, like instead of hammer fists and elbows, they're using the stick, butt end of the stick, to cave in each other's face masks. So they you need to learn jujitsu. You need to learn how to ground fight. And there's some ground fighting in silat, the Indonesian martial art. But uh, jujitsu, they're training live. They're not just drilling with cooperation. There's live resistance, and that's one of the great things that I really like about uh, pro, functional Jeet Kune Do, straight blast gym. Back in the day, they called it functional Jeet Kune Do, where instead of doing elaborate like 12-step patterns, um, where your partner that you're training with is actively resisting, not progressive resistance too, right? But just testing what actually works in real fights, and like what's the stuff that gets stripped away and what's the stuff that actually works. It's fundamentals, and simplicity, right? Like in boxing, jab cross hook, uppercut, endlessly, right? um and so for our jiu-jitsu, if you watch uh folks that compete in our gym, especially Maria, um sh- uh scissor sweep, kimura, hip bump, you know, like all day. Um, those are like the basics. Um, the basics work. Refining the basics and doing those well are really important. Um, so, yeah, 3 hours of sparring every Saturday, for over a year. Uh, so even though like I trained Filipino martial arts for like a just over a year, and this was when I was a brown belt in Kempo. Um, uh, it, uh, yeah, the time on the mats, time fighting, full contact. Um, it's good. It develops you. But it was a good mix of drills. There's lots of drills in Filipino martial arts. Learning the footwork. There's lots of footwork uh, for um, uh, not getting hit with a stick is really important. um, Lots of fun. Oh, let me go back. So Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. It used to be called Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. It goes, if you follow it back, uh, the roots are in Jiu-Jitsu. So the branches out from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu to Kempo, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It all traces back. Um, but one thing about American Kempo is that it's circular. So it's kind of a blend of kung fu and karate. So if you think of traditional karate, Okinawan karate, like with outward blocks, inward blocks, reverse punches, side kick, uh, front kick, um, you know, chain bring the punches to your side, your hip, you know, that linear style where you're squaring off and you're just going in and out, right? That was Goju Ryu karate. Like a lot of like when I was a kid, it was it's go and you're just waiting. Is back fist, side kick, and reverse punch. Like that was the game. Back fist, reverse punch. And so that's kind of linear in and out. Like taekwondo can be a little, well, taekwondo's got the circular kicks, but it's a little bit linear. And um but Filipino martial arts, there's lots of circular movement. um and at the end of this, I'm going to show like what's a technique from traditional martial arts, from Filipino martial arts, that you can actually use in jiu-jitsu, specifically in your guard. Oh, and standing up. So circular, linear, kind of think of like, but then also soft and hard style, right? So like in kung fu, you've got like different types of styles based on animals, like crane and uh, uh, techniques, monkey, but then also harder styles like hungar, and that are more based on strength. So hard and soft. There's jujitsu is the same. There's like super technical, flexible guys like John Thomas on YouTube. Uh, but then there's the guys that smash, um, that are like go hard and go straight at you. Like uh, n- n- uh, black belt slayer, Nicky Rodriguez. Just like boom. At first when he his first ADCC is just like, you know, uh, bulls colliding. So that's that hard style. So, what style are you? Are you technical? Are you flexible? Are you more circular, or are you like linear? Right. So it's like rock paper scissors. You know, uh, smash is good. I'm a fan of it, even though I'm a little guy. Uh, I definitely appreciate it because I've been under it a lot. I like, oh, Smash is good. The Smash game, uh, and I don't have the body type to play the inversion and you know the long legs, the triangle, and the spider game. So I'm kind of a fan of that. But as I get older, I need to embrace the circular and the soft. So yeah, and it's temperament too. Temperament. Um, you gotta be careful with ego, right? Um, you know, and so different styles of jujitsu is the same thing as different styles of martial arts. What else to say? Oh, so yeah, Probe magazine. My instructor had it. I was like interested. My goal was to do like a Dog Brothers gathering. Um, I was hoping to do that. Um, and yeah, what else to say? Oh, like Filipino martial arts, it's a lot of fun. Um, and uh, there's the uh, oh, I want to go back. Sorry, guys. Uh, sport versus street. Sport versus street. Um, on the underground, there's the endless debates of of like techniques that are unrealistic that wouldn't work in the street. You see this, it wouldn't work in the street, or it wouldn't work in the UFC, right? You see something on Instagram, and people are like, that's whack, that's cap, that wouldn't work in the UFC. It's true. S Like a lot of that, like some of the stuff that you'll see on Instagram, won't work in the UFC or on the street. Um, uh, Uncle Wristlock, the Wristlock. The uh, I I learned wristlocks through Filipino martial arts because uh, one of the key things, or things, the technical skill you're trying to develop, is the ability to disarm someone's holding a stick or holding a knife, and getting the 2-on-1 and on the wrist and on the arm, and controlling people and trying to disarm them while they're trying to stab you. Um, but yeah, um, it's super, lots of timing, lots of skill, lots of reps to be able to do that. Um, Best defense, of course, yes, avoid the situation, run when you can. Um, but uh, for some people, you might be studying jujitsu, martial arts, because your health and your safety are really at stake based on your job. My son-in-law is a police officer, and I hope he'll train more. Um, so uh, you know, when I was younger, it was for the safety of myself, my family, my kids, um, and now it's like wanting to pass on the knowledge to my son-in-law. Um, the so Filipino martial arts, learning to defend against weapons, training sometimes scenario training, uh, with the idea that someone might have a knife on them. And so, being able to control someone's arm, someone's wrist, and preventing them from touching you. Like, imagine you're doing jujitsu, you're grappling, and if it's razor sharp, just training with the idea that if one of their arms, pick an arm, left hand, right hand, if their hand touches you, you got cut. Um, if their hand touches that part of your body, you can't use it anymore for the rest of that round. If they touch your throat, then you're done. Try grappling with that, or grab a marker. If you don't have training knives, um, and try training, not allowing them to touch you, mark you up, and see what happens. It's eye opening. It's a lot of fun. Vunak, in one of his knife fighting videos, he has a knife. And whoom, he's got like a side of a pot roast hanging from a string. He's whoom, and you know opens up the meat. There's a 3-inch cut in that. He's like, that's your neck. Um, don't play around with stick fighting, like, or knife fighting. Um, don't train realistically was his main message. All right, few minutes left. So here's one basic technique from Filipino martial arts that'll help your guard. And that's the parry, and the salute. So incoming punch, you parry it, you're stepping off at an angle, and you salute. So it's wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Now, so that's against a stick or a knife or a punch. Grab the wrist, grab the elbow, 2-on-1. Now, valid criticism of this technique is that no one's going to stick their hand out there and allow you to grab it. And it's super hard, super unrealistic as someone's jabbing and and pulling back their fist. Super legit. But with lots of reps and lots of timing, lots of sparring, you can actually like get that against a committed jab if they're reaching for you, right? But even if you haven't been training that for 10 years, you're a wipeout. You can get this because when do you ever see someone extending their arm out and leaving it out there? When they're trying to get grips on you, right? So yeah, against a jab, it's gonna be, you can catch the jab or pat the jab, but it's hard to transfer that parry into your other hand, grab it, and then grab the wrist for 2-on-1. But if someone's trying to post on you, if someone's trying to collar tie you, if someone's trying to grip your collar with the gi, you can parry, you can grab cloth, you can grab their wrist, you can get a 2-on-1. This is the Marcelo 2-on-1 um, uh, grip. You can parry, pass it over, and bring the wrist into your armpit and bring it around to get an angle in the close guard. In mixed martial arts, the horizontal elbow when they're in your guard, you can frame, pass the elbow up, and get octopus guard. You see BJ Penn do this against Matt Hughes. Now, he's from Hawaii, so maybe he's seen it from Filipino martial artists you might have trained with. And sometimes there's a criticism like, you're just trying to get credit. Traditional martial arts try to see like traditional techniques, wherever they can, desperately. Maybe. but it's a pass. It's a pass. Double parry and getting to the angle, getting to the angle, looking into their ear. When you're standing, same thing. Um, uh, Good things happen when you can get off to an angle, look into someone's ear. Whether you're standing, whether you're striking, you get off to the side angle, um, and you can also do this on the inside. So that's getting the outside angle. Where does it show up when you're on the inside? You can outward parry, and outward parry, like outward parry, vertical punch, outward parry, vertical punch, outward block, vertical punch. Where does this show up in jiu-jitsu is when you're trying to get inside a position. Someone's reaching, you parry it, and you, instead of vertical punching, you're grabbing their collar, and now you've got your same side collar or cross side collar sleeve grip. So, or when you're standing, parrying to the outside, wax off, and collar tie. So you could practice that, parry and salute. So it's kind of like you're wiping your hair. In the clinch, too, like these types of techniques uh, work pretty well. Dirty boxing, a lot of dirty boxing in the clinch it is from Filipino martial arts. So hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. Feel free to comment. Next time we're going to talk about. So I train. Oh, one more story. My instructor, mid or late '90s, forget the year. Hickson came to town, and he did a seminar. And guys, this was almost 30 years ago, like 25 years ago. The seminar was $250, 250 bucks. I was like, oh man, I want to go, but I couldn't afford it back then. I don't know what that translates to today's dollars, but $250 is a spendy seminar right now. So my instructor went to that. He had a spazzy partner at the seminar. He came back with his arm, wrapped up. But yeah, he had a good time. So next time we're going to talk about more in depth full contact fighting federation. Going to talk about my buddies that learned about this. So after the full contact rumble at the Roseland, people were like more interested in um in jiu-jitsu, in mixed martial arts. This is before Ultimate Fighter, and but people wanted to train locally. I don't know if I mentioned my fight in its entirety, because it was short. My first one was on the local news, on the 10 o'clock news. So next episode we'll talk about it. And thanks again for listening, guys. Please like and subscribe for future episodes. I'm gonna do some reaction videos on the YouTube channel. Our gym has ultra heavyweight tournament in less than a month. February 17th, Battle of Giants. I'm going to be doing commentary with my coach, Gus. So I'm going to do some reaction videos on the YouTube to get my play-by-play commentating skills up and sharp for that event. And that event's going to be on YouTube too. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys, for watching. Us.